Matt Driscoll offensive philosophy, DY. I was sending you guys some texts late last night on the numbers. So they shoot a lot of threes. It's a very modern day type of offense. So if you look at the numbers, their 3-point rate of 54 in the 2024-25 season was number one in the country. They attempted 36 threes per game. That led the country. Next closest team was 32 3-point attempts per game. They made almost 13 threes per game to lead the country. 35% from three as a team, so that's not bad. In 2023-24, Matt Driscoll's North Florida team was number one in the nation once again in 3-point rate at 54.7. They made 12 threes per game. That was number one in the nation again. 33 attempts per game, most in the country again that year. Then if you look at 2022-23, 28 3-point attempts per game. That was number 6 nationally. They were 6th nationally in 3-point rate as well. And if you go over the past years, 2021, top 10 in 3-point rate. 2020-21, 14th in 3-point rate, 36% from three. 19-20 season, number one nationally in 3-point rate at 52.2. And number 13 nationally that year, 38% from three, ranking 13th in the country. You can just keep going down season by season. His team shoot a lot of threes. He did make a comment on a podcast, Coaching You podcast I was listening to on YouTube last night, where like there's a perception they live and die by the three, but I don't necessarily say that. But it is a system where he likes to run pace. They move, they get up the court quickly. He said his ideal scenario is to get the ball across half court in 2 seconds or under, which gives you an idea what his philosophy is. Push the pace. They were number 9 in the country in adjusted tempo this last year at North Florida. So, what do you kind of make of the offensive system? You just heard the numbers I gave there, DY. Like, what's your reaction to what K-State might be? And as you look at the roster that Jerome Tang has assembled to date, and we know there's hopefully one more big missing piece that they could add to the puzzle. But as you sit here and look at who they've compiled on this roster, how does it kind of align with the fit here in terms of system that you see for Matt Driscoll?
I prefer this system. I prefer this style of basketball. I think it's the one that you can recruit to a little bit better, probably once you have the concept out there and can kind of sell it. Like, obviously, when they were recruiting or have been recruiting, they probably weren't saying, hey, Matt Driscoll's our coach. Don't just, trust us, one of our lead assistants when he's still the head coach in North Florida. They probably weren't saying that. And they probably really couldn't say, we're going to all of a sudden run a lot more and bomb even more threes. That's not necessary. So I don't think it's a recruiting pitch that they were really able to probably sell this time around. So with that being said, I prefer the style. I think you can recruit to it in the future once you have the concept in hand and can actually point to it, right? It's easier to do that than maybe try to toss out a hypothetical, which is what you're kind of forced to do right now. And that's probably my point here. Aside from a couple of guys, I don't think the roster holistically really is conducive to what he wants to do. There are a couple guys here though that would be perfect and ideal for it. One of them actually being Abdi Bashir, to be quite honest.
Well, and Driscoll made a comment on that Coaching You podcast I was listening to, which he had recorded about 5 months ago. He really likes to recruit 6'7", 6'8" guys who are guards. So he likes longer guards. And, you look at K-State's roster right now, Kostic is 6'5", 6'6". You've got Bashir, who's 6'7". So, that kind of meets some of the criteria I just mentioned.
Bashir being a volume 3-point shooter too. Bashir is, I think Nate Johnson is probably, him or Kostic is probably the best player on the roster at the moment. But if you're talking about ideal fit for the system that you just explained that Driscoll tries to unload, it's actually probably Abdi Bashir.
Yeah. And on that Coaching You podcast, he was asked to describe his offensive philosophy. And I'm just going to read you what I kind of transcribed a little bit there. Quote, "We've got players, not plays. What's our best? When is it our best? Whenever you get the best shot, that's your shot. That's when it is. It could be in the first 4 seconds of the shot clock, the next 8 seconds, or the last 3 seconds. I don't care. So if we call a play and the guy plays you differently and you can rip and get to the rim, I'm not trying to get X and X player a shot. My point is that part of the philosophy is so critical. When you turn down that quality shot, you end up later in the clock and you don't get that quality shot. And quality of shot is way more important to me than anything else. What we tell the guys, if anybody ever says to you living by the three, they don't know basketball, understand this. And yes, we're going to make 12 threes per game, he said at the time. However, in that in itself, they like to take the ball out fast. And he was asked why you teach it that way. And he said, because, quote, when Coach Drew hired me, he gave me 8 tapes on Kansas. And Kirk Heinrich was the lead point guard. And Drew said, why are they the fastest team in America? So I do this entire 25-page dissertation and gave it to him. I've been with Coach a long time, and he's never used a single thing from what I gave him, not one. But it's a great lesson that success is crumbs you picked up along the way, and you keep picking them up and picking them up. And when you do that, now you play, end quote. Now, I say that because he watched that. If you remember those Roy Williams teams, they were always one of the fastest teams in the country in terms of pace. My high school basketball team, we tried to emulate that as well. We weren't KU fans, but, tried to emulate that pace and get up the court in a hurry. And that's just something when we talk about tempo and pace that, he watched KU on film and back in those Roy Williams days, and he took away from that, even though they didn't maybe use it at Baylor, that, that's something that he wanted to be a part of his program and his philosophy from a coaching standpoint. So they're going to push the pace, get the ball across half court in 2 seconds, take the ball out of the basket as fast as they can, rim runners, etc. Like that's things that he talked about, which is an attractive form of basketball. Let's be honest. And again, they've had some guys hit the portal that have landed at very good spots.
Another thing I would say is that style system, you actually is made for several combo guards and maybe not a true point guard. And at the moment, it's kind of what Kansas State is.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to push the pace all the time, you're not going to play a ton of half-court offense.
Yeah. Just a couple more things real quick on Driscoll's background, DY. I mean, I guess first of all, I should mention that while he was at Baylor too, like the 3-point shooting, you remember those teams with Curtis Jarrells and some of those great guards they had. They were top 30 in the country in 3-point makes per game there as well. While he was an assistant at Baylor those last few years, and consistently a team that shot it well from beyond the arc.